Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to be taking a really close look at something that I know is very high on everybody's mind, especially if you're on GP and you've heard anything about Microsoft Dynamics Business Central. We're going to take a close look at Microsoft Dynamics GP and the walk to Business Central and what to expect there. First off, my name is Chris Bowling. I'm with Sandlapper Dynamics. Welcome to our latest webinar. We're really excited to have you here. The Dynamics GP and Business Central is all the talk right now in the Dynamics community. There's a big push to try to move those GP customers over to Business Central. It's the natural progression of things in the community. And so we want to help people feel a little more comfortable in that move. Many of you have lived and breathed GP for years. Some of you have already started working in BC. The goal here isn't to say one is good, one is bad. It's to show clearly where they're alike and where they differ. We'll try to keep it practical, focus on what the experience feels like as a user, what changes when you move from GP to BC, and maybe what stays familiar. By the end, we hope you have a clearer picture of what it takes to run in BC. Maybe you have a few aha moments about how the technology has shifted. Everybody is on mute, but the chat is open. If you have any questions, please send those our way, and we'll be happy to field them if we can. If we can't, we will definitely get those back to you. Okay, by the way, just a little bit about myself. I started my career back in, let's say, the 1900s, 1997, as a GP consultant. I did that for quite a while. I did that for 10, 12 years. One of my customers hired me on as a IT director for their company, but basically doing for them what I had been doing for all my GP customers. Helped them to scale their Dynamics technology up, to grow from an $8 million regional 15 tech company to a nationwide $150 million 1,500 tech organization that was eventually acquired by a Fortune 20 company. And that they're still using that Dynamics technology today. And in that process, I met Holly Huffman, who is my business partner here at Sandlapper Dynamics. And we are very excited to try to help our customers today make that walk and scale their businesses in this Dynamics world. So let's talk about today's agenda. First, we'll talk about what our goals are, and we'll talk about why Business Central. Why not go to something else? Microsoft themselves say, let's go to Business Central. But why? Then we'll start our side-by-side kind of comparison. We'll talk about Role Center and navigation. We'll talk about personalization, access, integrations, automation, and the Power Platform, CoPilot and agents, and updates and upgrades, and how those things are all different or the same, if they are, between GP and Business Central, which we'll refer to as BC. Okay, so what are our goals for today? So obviously, we just want to mainly introduce Business Central to anyone who's never seen it. Maybe during that process, we'll correct or confirm any preconceived notions that you might have about life after GP and on BC. Maybe provide a day in the life, what it feels like to be on BC compared to what you know in GP. We'll highlight areas where you should see significant opportunities for cost savings and maybe some gains in efficiency. We'll also try to be transparent about the realities of making the move from GP to BC. And generally just try to provide clarity around a subject that's probably a little overwhelming, especially for those who are really starting to think about making that move to something new. When it comes to transparency around the realities of making that move, I'm going to call out one thing right away. The biggest reality around that move from GP to Business Central, you're going to hear a lot of folks talk about that as a migration. I want to thank, there's a Microsoft MVP out there. Her name is Kristen Hosman. She works for Mount Evans Consulting. She's brilliant. Um, I'm taking this directly from her, so I want to make sure she gets the credit. This is not a migration. You're going to hear it called a migration to move from GP to Business Central. This is a re-implementation. This is like implementing a new solution because it is different. It's quite different. This is not just like migrating from GP version 2013 to 2016. This is we're implementing a new solution. Now, we have a lot better tools today for taking your data from GP to Business Central a lot easier than we used to. So we're not so much worried about the data coming over safely. But from a training perspective and learning the new system, we should think about it and setting ourselves up for success. We should think about it as an implementation, a re-implementation, less a migration. Okay. So why Business Central? Well, the main reason is the GP era is coming to an end. Okay, that's just the facts. GP has been wonderful. It's been around a really long time. I remember telling people GP is not going anywhere, and it didn't for literal decades, but it is now. And so, depending on what version of GP you're running, what release you're running, your support may have already come to an end. If you're on, 2016 R2, 2018 R2, you have maybe till the summer of 2026 or January 2028 before your extended support will end. But ultimately, April 30th, 2031, all security updates, all product support, everything will be over for Dynamics GP. Now, my partner Holly has a great analogy here. Do you have to be off GP? Is it just going to stop working? No, you don't have to. You can keep using it forever. But it's kind of like using or driving a vintage car, right? The longer you drive it, the older that vintage car gets, the harder it's going to be to find parts, the harder it's going to be to find people to service it. And when you do find those parts, when you do find those people to service it, the more expensive it's going to be because they become more scarce, right? Scarcity drives expense. And so that's the way it's going to be with GP eventually. Additionally, there are a lot more GP customers out there, users, than there are partners that support these solutions. So if a lot of users, a lot of customers start to move at the same time from GP to, say, Business Central, you could get left out in the cold having to wait until partners come available to help you with that move. So it might behoove you to go ahead and make that decision earlier rather than waiting until later. Just food for thought there. So that's one reason why Business Central GP is coming to an end. A couple of other reasons. Business Central was designed for the growing small and mid-sized businesses. Now, mid-sized business is relative, right? At $150 million at the company Holly and I previously worked for, that was a large business compared to what we had been previously. But compared to the Fortune 20 company that bought us, it was peanuts. So mid-sized business is relative. The truth is, Business Central can serve a wide range of businesses. It's going to serve, in some cases, large businesses. If you're what we would call an enterprise level business, then you might look at something like Dynamics F&O. But Business Central is really going to encapsulate most of the businesses out there very well. Lastly, it was built for today's cloud. It is going to integrate with just about everything out there. And as we'll talk about later, it will even integrate with things that are not Microsoft related. Okay. So let's talk about the first side-by-side comparison. Now, you see this presentation here. We've got our first side-by-side element here. Once we move out of here, I'm actually going to pull up Business Central so that we can actually see the software. We're going to live in there for a little bit, even when we go into our other sections like personalization. And we may not come back to another slide like this that has side by side, but we do have this deck available with a lot of the side by side information. Happy to share this deck out with anybody that wants it with all of these side by side slides included. Okay. Even though we'll cover the information. Okay. So GP's navigation was your traditional menu driven drop down list navigation, right? So a little bit clunky, a little less intuitive, and not really designed to be um, uh, set up for your role, your tasks based on your job. Okay. Business Central is role based. So we give you a role so that when you log in, it knows what you do and it sets up your dashboard or your role center around the job you have. Then you can continue to further personalize it from there. But it's very web based, very streamlined, very intuitive. You got action ribbons, links, search bars, drill downs. It's a very clean, web based, very much like what we're used to using today when we're just browsing the internet. Let's pull up Business Central and take a look at it. Just pull this over here. Okay. So here's Business Central. This is our dashboard or our role center. That's what Business Central refers to this as, is a role center. Okay. So we're going to scroll down and take a look at this further. But first off, I'm going to go to this little settings button up here. And I'm going to go to my settings so we can see I'm logged in here as a business manager. Okay. That's my role today. If I click here, I can see all these other roles that are set up out here, like accountant or accounts receivable admin, or an inventory manager, manufacturing manager, project manager, etc. And depending on the role that I'm assigned to, my role center page might be completely different. The links that I have automatically assigned to me, my accesses might be completely different depending on the role that I'm assigned to when I log in. Okay. And so when I log in, I can see as a business manager, I have certain actions that are already assigned to me. You can see these are links like a website, right? Even if I do these drop downs, these are links here to various windows. My my role center page here. Oops, sorry, let me go back out of there. My role center page here have all these tiles that I could click into to show me my ongoing purchase orders or my payments that are in process, etc. Down here, I've got some fun reporting. I've got this top 5 customers by sales. I've got some favorite account stuff I'm going to talk about a little later that I really love. And I've got a Power BI dashboard down here that I'm going to touch on a little later also. Okay. I'm going to pop into my chart of accounts. Now, you see here, I've got a link here. There's a reason why this chart of accounts link is even here. If I click on that, it's going to open up my chart of accounts window. You'll notice over here, this little bookmark is marked. That's why I see that chart of accounts button on my role center. It's because that's marked. If I unmark it, it won't be on my role center. So while logging in as a business manager, I I see my role center a certain way. I also have the ability to put any other windows right there on my role center that I deem are necessary for me that I want to have quick access to just by clicking on the little bookmark there, right? Another really nice feature of Business Central is if I know what window I'm looking for, I can always go up here to this search bar and I can just type anything like account RE, right? And just by ACCRE, and it's going to go try to find anything that looks. So here's a page that's bank account reconciliation, right? Or here's some reports, bank account register, age accounts receivable, just by typing in ACC space RE. Okay, it will find lots of things here that might fit that, lots of pages and tasks that might fit that. Okay, so that search bar is super powerful as a way to find windows in this system. While we're here on this chart of accounts, I want to talk about something that's I feel like is very unique to Business Central. It doesn't just want you to create your posting accounts. Business Central would like for you to create an account number and a line for both headers and totaling lines for your chart of accounts right here in your list of accounts, which I'll be honest, that was a little bit of a change for me, like a culture change for me also. But now that I've done it, because for our business, we use Business Central for our internal accounting. Now that I've done that, I found that very useful because I can scroll down here now and I can go to, say, my total assets and I can see what that comes out to. I could scroll all the way to the bottom to my total, my net income and see what my net income is. There's a totaling line down there that adds all of my, revenue and expenses and gives me my total income. I could have an EBITDA line right there in this list of chart of accounts that always tells me what my EBITDA is right here. Okay. Along with all of my posting accounts, right? And you'll notice here that all of these values are links. So I can click on any one of them and it will take me to all the individual transactions that combine to make that total. Okay. Back that up one. Okay, so we're going to go back to our role center here. So I'm going to scroll down here on my role center, and I mentioned this favorite accounts view here, touching on the whole idea of I can bring totaling accounts. I have totaling accounts in my chart of accounts. On this view here on my role center, I can actually bring up to my role center, up to my dashboard, any one of those lines from my chart of accounts. So right from the jump, first thing I look at when I log in, I can see what my cash position is for the day. I can see what my total income looks like. I can see what my net income looks like. See what my total cost of goods sold looks like just by dropping this down, managing my list, and adding new lines from my chart of account in here, right on my dashboard. Not everybody can see this. This is just mine. Okay. Power BI, I don't know if you're familiar with Power BI, but very powerful reporting tool. There are pre-built books of Power BI reports that are already available, that Microsoft has built already, that are available within Business Central. But then you can modify those reports, or you can build all new reports in Business Central that pull data from the Business Central database that you can then render and display right here in Business Central, or from outside Business Central. You can create subscriptions to have them just, to automatically send to other folks' Outlook accounts or Teams accounts, however you want to distribute them. What I like here is I've got this financial overview dashboard right here, but I can drop this down, hit expand, and now I've got this expanded Power BI view. It's going to pop this up. But I don't just have this financial overview. If you know anything about Power BI, you know that I can click anywhere in here and it will update all the other dashboards here on this window. But you'll see down here, I've got these tabs where I've got an income statement, a balance sheet, all these other tabs, EBITDA. I've got an age trial balance for receivables and payables down here. Very useful tabs down here that are pre-built, designed to read your data, and then they can be updated as you see fit. Okay. So a lot different in terms of navigation and your role center, your role-based operating style here for Business Central compared to what might be viewed in GP is much more clunky than this. This is much more like operating inside of a website because that's kind of what it is. Okay. Let's talk about personalization a little bit. In GP, not a lot of ability to just make BC look and feel the way you personally want it to look and feel. Now, someone on your IT team, even a developer maybe, they might be able to make GP look and feel differently for everybody, but then that has to be also populated onto every desktop environment. That's not how Business Central works. In Business Central, every user has the ability to personalize their windows for what they need. Again, I go to my settings button here and I've got personalize here. So while the role center defaults to something that seems to make sense for a business manager in my case, or an account manager for someone else, or a project manager for someone else, I can go to personalize here. You'll see I've got this now ribbon up here that says personalizing business manager. And if I want this whole section here changed, I can, if I don't want this outstanding invoices box here, I've got this little red arrow. I can either move it or hide it. I can get rid of it if I want to, or I can move it to a different spot. I can move this entire section here. By clicking here, I can move it or I can hide it. You'll see there are other things here, like this email status item that I have already hidden. That's why it's got these gray bars across it. Okay. I can scroll down to here, and I can, if I don't like this business performance report, I can move or hide it. Okay, so I can make this window look like I want it to look. In our system, I actually have all of my dashboards and reporting at the top, and all these tiles and shortcut buttons I have down towards the bottom because I like to have my reporting at the top, right when I log in to see it. Okay. Beyond the role center, I can actually go to, let's say, a sales invoice window. Okay. And let's say I pull up this invoice here. And you'll notice here on this is one line of this invoice here. Okay. If I scroll out here, I've got a lot of things out here. Line item discount, maybe I don't want on here. Maybe I never need that on here. Okay. I can go to personalize. And if I wanted to get rid of that column, I could totally just get rid of that column, hide it. Maybe there are other fields that I need to have on each line. I can go here to add field. It'll open up this option here for other fields that are available that I could drop into this invoice view somewhere and add these in. And this updates just for me, and it goes with me wherever I log into Business Central, not just on this workstation. If I log into Business Central from anywhere else in the world, these changes are going to follow me anywhere. Now, there are ways also to make changes to Business Central so that it changes for everybody, right? But you wouldn't want to give that to everybody, okay? So that's under the personalize option here. Okay, let's talk about access to Business Central versus GP. When I first started implementing GP, just accessed it through a desktop. GP is designed to be an on-premises system. Okay. It is, let's go ahead and bring this guy back up here and go back to, we talked about personalization, right? GP is designed to be an on-premises system. It's you install it on a server in the server room, and then you go around, you install the application on all the different applications workstations. Okay. Then came along Citrix and VPNs and remote desktop. That gave us the ability suddenly to access GP from outside of the office. Okay. That was nice, but still, it's effectively the same infrastructure. It's just that Citrix or remote desktop or VPN, that's what gave us the ability to access it from other places. We're still logging into that to the VPN and then logging into remote desktop with our Windows credentials and then logging into GP with our SQL or GP credentials, right? And then no chance you ever want to use it on anything other than really a laptop or a desktop computer, even through remote desktop. Business Central is true cloud first infrastructure. Number one, it's single sign on with your Microsoft 365 logon. It's Active Directory or Entra ID. When you log on to Windows, when you're ready to log into Business Central, it's going to use that same login. So you're not having to log in again to Business Central, right? It it seamlessly and effortlessly scales whether you're in the office or remotely. Okay. Uh, Works on any device, right? So whether I'm on a laptop, desktop, phone, tablet. Now, are you going to want to use Business Central from a phone? I don't know that you're going to want to sit there and put in 50 invoices from your phone. Don't know about that, but you can use Business Central from it's designed to be used from a phone. It will render properly, unlike say GP, right? I could pull up remote desktop on a phone, start using GP, but that's not going to be a very effective user experience. Here's my phone. Here's my lovely bride. And there's the app for BC. Okay, Business Central. Click on that app, and there comes Business Central popping open. And there it is. It logs me into Kronos, the test company here. There's all those tiles. And as I scroll, right, there's all those tiles. And then I can click here on this report. And there's those top 5 customers, that report there that we've talked about. If I scroll to the right, it takes me to those top accounts that I like to have. So if I'm away from the office, I can log into BC on my phone and I can still see what my cash position looks like today. I can still see what my net income looks like right now, right? Right here from my phone that fast. And I could go in and put in an invoice if I wanted to. Don't know if I'd want to do that on my phone, but it'd be a lot easier to do that here than anything I could do with GP. A true cloud first, cloud design technology. Okay. Designed to be accessed from anywhere. Okay. Let's talk about integration. And then we're gonna pull Business Central back up again here in just a second. GP, probably my favorite thing they ever did with GP when it came to integration was Smart List and the views that you could build. And then when we got really we started, some of us started like building Excel reports using, Power Pivot to go into SQL on the back end and accessing those views, maybe even creating some views there to pull that data in directly into Excel. But it was almost always a one way, right, from Smart List into Excel or through Power Pivot on the back end from the data to Excel. Um, and that was pretty much it without a lot of extra work. We got it to kind of send invoices and whatnot through Outlook, but it was a lot of hard work. We never got any kind of Teams integration. No real true broad full, Power BI or Power Automate type, integrations that work all the time without heavy lifting. Again, Business Central, right out of the box, designed for full native integration with Microsoft 365 products, whether it's Excel, Outlook, Teams, Word, SharePoint, Power BI, Power Automate, all the Power Platform tools. Okay, this software is designed for a full, fully integrated experience with the rest of Microsoft's solutions. And then additionally, it's going to allow you to integrate with other solutions other than Microsoft solutions. So let's take a look here at some examples. Okay, let's go back to our, yes, I want to exit this. Let's go back to our role center. And let's go back into our chart of accounts here, just to give you an idea of some of the integration capabilities here. I'm gonna go here, I've got my chart of accounts open. I'm gonna go over here to this share button. I'm gonna drop that down. Right away, open in Excel. I can take all the data here, drop it directly into Excel, and now I'm off and running. I can do whatever I want to with it in Excel. Okay. Um, you will see pretty quickly in Business Central that whether I'm talking about chart of accounts, customers, vendors, open invoices, posted invoices on the AR side, AP side, list of inventory transactions, projects, whatever you happen to be working with, this list view like you see here is very, very common. And everywhere you see a list view, you're going to see this share button and you're going to see an open in Excel option. Okay. Very, very common. In fact, you'll see all these options on all these list views. So I can drop this directly into Excel. But I said earlier that GP only had that one-way path, right, from GP to Excel, not the other way around. Well, now we have this edit in Excel option. Now, I'm not going to suggest that you're going to want everybody to have this functionality, okay? But, and it can be, we can turn it off, turn it on. But this edit in Excel function is really powerful, really cool that this is here and it's so easy right out of the box. I can take this data that we're looking at here. I can press edit in Excel. It's going to open up what we see here in Excel. I can literally edit whatever I see here, press a publish button, and boom, it will update the live data here. So if I'm migrating my customer data from GP to Business Central, but I know there's some data cleanup that needs to happen, and I failed to do that cleanup before I moved it into Business Central. Oh man, I need to go in there. I need to make this change to all those addresses. Instead of eliminating all that data and reintegrating it, I can just go into Edit Excel, make those changes directly in Excel, hit the publish button that you'll see right there in Excel, and it's going to make those changes right to the data right here. So convenient, so nice, right? That's that power of that integration that we now have that we did not have before. Share to teams. You can have team members that you're using Microsoft Teams with every day that do not have a license into Business Central, but can interact with the Business Central data and even some screens through Teams without having a BC license. There are ways to have approvals in Teams for transactions in Business Central without them having a BC license, or at least without them having a full BC license. Tight full integration with Microsoft products. Okay. Let's see what was next. Automation and Power Platform. Let's go back to our PowerPoint presentation. Okay. So in GP, automation pretty limited. You had some, you could kind of like do recurring entries with batches. You could set a batch to be a recurring batch so that the transactions that lived in that batch didn't really go away. You posted them and they stayed, and you could then post them again the following month, for example. That's kind of like automation. There were some workflows you could create in GP for like payable or purchase order maybe workflows. Um, and then there were some ISV or third party solutions that might be able to to offer some functionality there. But beyond that, you're talking about custom development potentially. Business Central, you've got those same, you know, you've got some workflow functionality that's built right in that goes way beyond like sales order or purchase order. Okay. But Business Central is fully integrated with the Power Platform, which is three solutions: Power Automate, Power Apps, and Power BI. We talked a little bit about Power BI. That's that robust custom reporting tool that you can build reporting for that pulls data and automatically runs and ships out to whoever you want it to ship out to or display where you want it to display. The beautiful thing about the Power Platform, whether it's Power Automate, Power Apps, or Power BI, is what we consider no code or no low code, meaning you don't need a developer. You can learn to use these tools to build apps, build reports, or build automation without the need of a developer. Okay. Power Apps can be built. Let's say you've got folks that need to track time, but they don't need a full BC license. We can build an app that allows them to clock in and clock out on this app and have that data go right back into Business Central where it needs to be. Or we can build automation using Power Automate that takes data out of Business Central, sends it somewhere else to work with, and then once we're done working with it in its finished form and bring it back into Business Central, right? Here's an example of a Power Automate workflow that takes data out of Business Central and sends it to Teams for approval before sending it back to Business Central, right? These are no code solutions that non-developers can use to build automation, build apps. Power Automate is one of the tools that we like to use to help with bringing data from non-Microsoft solutions to bring that data into Business Central. Okay. So if you've got a non-Microsoft, industry specific software that can export data to say a CSV file or something along those lines, Power Automate can help us grab that data at a certain day and time and pull that data into Business Central. Just as an example. CoPilot and agents. All right. When we talk about AI, just there's no AI for GP. There's none of that functionality is built in. Okay, there's no agents for automatic entry. There's no predictive suggestions. There's no embedded AI. There's no that just GP predates all that. Okay, Microsoft is betting big on Copilot. Is betting big on AI, and it is embedded in Business Central now. Some parts are already in Business Central. There are other bits that will come with Microsoft 365, and then there are other pieces that might require extra funding. But for the most part, it's all inherently natively built right in there. Okay. Um, and it's really powerful, and it's only getting more powerful. Let's pull this up and take a look at what it can do. Okay. So here's Business Central. Let's go back to our dashboard here. First, I'm going to click on this little Copilot button here, and I'm going to ask it, just like you would if you ever used Copilot or Chat GPT or whatever, and you ask it a question, right? I'm going to say, what is our top customer by sales dollars? Just ask it that and see what it comes back with. Again, that alone is not a functionality that is available in GP. Okay. But I can have these sorts of conversations with CoPilot within Business Central. Okay. And it's going to come back and says a Datum Corporation, customer card number, whatever. Your balance is $7,808. Your contact is so and so, and your last sale, your sales current year are $230,000. Okay, that's the information that came back with. Nifty. Okay, obviously that's just one example, but again, pretty cool and getting cooler all the time. Also here, that's CoPilot, and there's a lot that's just scratching the surface. There's a lot that CoPilot can and will be able to do. But we also mentioned agents. These guys up here are what we're referring to as agents, payables agent and sales order agent. Okay. Now I haven't got these activated. That's why they've got the little plus signs there. And they're really in beta right now. There's a lot of customers and partners out there that are testing these things right now and giving feedback to Microsoft, but they're coming for full release very soon. Here's what they're going to allow you to do. Again, this combines both the AI functionality, CoPilot, and the full integration that we just talked about a moment ago with Microsoft technology. Let's say you manage the accounts payable department, and you guys have a mail folder for AP at companyname.com, and your vendors send your AP invoices to that folder for payment, right? They send you an invoice to the AP folder in your mailbox, and this payables agent is set up to read inbound mail to that folder in Outlook. Once it sees an invoice come in with an attachment and the details in the body, maybe, it's going to go create an invoice for that vendor in BC. It's going to do its best to create the invoice based on the data that it got from the email. And if there's an attachment, it's going to attach that attached invoice document to the invoice it creates here. So if it created a purchase invoice here, it's going to try to, let's say this is it. It's going to try to create this invoice here with the right information. And over here where it has this attachment, it's going to try to attach the actual invoice here, the document here. And then it's going to let you know that it did that so that you can then go and just compare, is this correct? Did the payables agent read that email properly in the folder, create the payables transaction properly, and can I just post it now? That's what the payables agent will do in BC once configured. Sales order agent will do the same thing on the sales order side. Say you're a you're a salesperson for your company. You've got a folder set up where your customers will email you orders. Right? They're a regular customer. They email you an order. The sales order agent will watch that email box for an order or anything that looks like it might be an order. And when somebody says, hey, I'd like to order 5 of these, 6 of these, 7 of these, whatever, it will attempt to create an order in Business Central for that customer with those line items at those quantities at the sales price that we typically sell those quantities at. Then, and it notifies the salesperson for that customer that a new order has been created in Business Central based on that email. And now it's just up to the salesperson to go and validate that sales order in Business Central, make sure that it is what the customer actually wanted to order, and then start the process to fulfill that order. Very cool stuff. Again, this stuff is in beta right now, but that should tell you a couple things. A, CoPilot and these agents are pretty cool. A huge leap forward from anything that was available in GP, which was nothing like this. But also tells you the amount of effort and work that is going into Business Central right now to continue to improve it, right? It is It is the thing right now that Microsoft is working on to walk forward in this space. Okay. Awesome. Let's minimize this and let's go to updates and upgrades. This is where I think the customers, you all, are going to see the biggest gain in uh, cost, or the biggest cost savings is what I'll say, right? We lived this big time when we were managing the GP solution for our customer, for the company we worked for. Every 2 to 3 years, had to sit down with the leadership and explain all the cost, both the expense of moving to the next solution, right? The downtime it was going to take, everybody out of the system on a Friday night. We're going to work through the weekend. The IT team's going to work through the weekend. We're going to hope and pray that all of our data migrates to the next version. We're going to hope and pray that all those third-party solutions are ready and that they're going to work, and that by Monday morning everything's back up and running and everybody can log back in and there's no data loss. All the functionality works, all those customizations upgraded successfully, and we're good to go. And it is a full-blown weekend of stress, expense, and it's just a harrowing experience, right? A harrowing and expensive endeavor. That all goes away under Business Central. Business Central is all online. It's 2 major updates a year. They call them waves, usually in April and October. And then each month there are minor updates and fixes that happen. Microsoft notifies you by email when they're happening. Customizations and extensions are cloud ready all the time. The ISVs, those third parties, they're required to be ready, right? There's none of this waiting around like we used to. Can't upgrade this year in GP because that third party we use is not ready. That's not a thing anymore with Business Central. Okay. Upgrades are predictable, low effort, built in, and no additional expense. That is huge. Okay. Give you an idea. We get this update in email. It tells us that our environment has been, right, this update, SandLabber Dev, has been updated to version 26.2 successfully. It tells us when it happened. We get that email right after it happened the next morning. And here's our environment list for Business Central. This is our real environment list, and it tells us that in September, we can expect an update to 26.5. Okay. Right. It happens automatically at night. We come in like one morning and it's updated. With any third parties that have been updated also. It's a whole new world as far as this is concerned. Okay. So that's really it. We did have a few questions that came in that I want to touch on. I'm going to stop sharing real quick and try to read some of these questions that we had if we've got another minute. One question. How hard is it to migrate customizations? That's a really good question. So customizations, if you still need the customization, probably has to be recustomized. It probably has to be rebuilt. However, I'll say this. I would be shocked if you still need the customization in Business Central. In fact, customizations often are no longer required in Business Central because the functionality is already there. In fact, a lot of times, folks that put in third parties to handle something in general in GP no longer even need that third party solution anymore in Business Central because the functionality was already there. Okay. So not only may you not need that customization anymore, you might not even need that ISV anymore. So there's that. How steep a learning curve is it for Business Central? Everybody's different. I'll say it's a little bit of a steep learning curve for me. I'm a little older. Younger people pick it up a lot faster because they're so used to the style of solution that Business Central is. They're used to the internet. They're used to websites and links and the way it works. Um, so it's different for everybody, but because you're used to the type of work that both systems do, it's a pretty quick pickup, a couple of weeks, and you're generally operating okay. Um, are the integrations with Outlook, Teams, and Excel extra cost? No, no. It is designed. It is a Microsoft solution designed to work with Microsoft solutions. And last one is, can BC integrate with non-Microsoft systems? Yep, we talked about this too. It supports a lot of different APIs, and then with like things like Power Automate, we can make it work usually without the help of a developer. So very, very powerful tool. And generally, BC is a lot less expensive than its competitors out there in terms of licensing. So just going to pull back up our presentation real quick so that I can share our contact info with everybody. We really, really appreciate everybody joining us on today's call. If you would like to reach out to us to help answer any more questions, we'd love to get into a one-on-one here. This amount of time is not super conducive to going into a lot of detail. So if you'd like for us to do that with you, please reach out to us at any one of these contact info opportunities here, or you can reach us on the web, or you can find out more GP2BC resources there on our YouTube channel. Please let us know if you'd like to like for us to engage further with you. We'd love to do that. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining us and take care. Thanks.